Welcome back to my conversation right here for our last segment of the year. And while you guys are out celebrating, make sure you're celebrating safely. And I brought a buddy of mine along to remind you to help. Anyway, we'll get off into that in a minute. Please put your hands together from the Fresno Police Department, Sergeant Michael Landon. Give him a round of applause. How you doing, sir?
Great, how are you?
I am having a blast. Last show of the year. Great guest. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Now, you're not just here to remind people not to drink and drive, but to discuss a very special program that you're involved in. Please tell us about that.
You know, I'm here to talk about problem-oriented policing. It's a segment of the Fresno Police Department is involved in and has been for a number of years. We use the acronym POP, but
Yes.
again, problem-oriented policing. And really what it comes down to, back in 1979, Professor Herman Goldstein, University of Wisconsin, looked at policing and decided that the police were too incident driven. In other words, just responding to calls and not examining why we were getting those calls. So what we do in each of our 5 policing districts in Fresno, we have a POP officer, and we examine the calls for service. Why are people calling the police? And we look at repeat locations. Okay. And when we have to ask the question, why are the police being called out here 10, 15, 20 times a month? And we try to examine what the root of the problem is.
That's incredible. That's a lot of calls on some. So how does it work? Is it by just calling in and reporting incidents or a suspicion in the neighborhood, or what's the process with POP?
It just depends on the problem, but when we start to hear from the public and the police are responding to a particular location over and over again, we examine the root of that problem. And what our POP officers will do is go out and form that community partnership with business owners, landlords, members of the public, and then we also work with our partner agencies, code enforcement, et cetera. I have a couple of examples if you'd like.
Yes, please, please.
For example, a local convenience store here in Fresno. We started to receive numerous calls, the officers responding out because we had a transient population that they were hanging out on the side of the building on this property, the convenience store. They were drinking, there were fights, disturbances, and there was aggressive panhandling going on. The police were constantly going out there. We took a look at that and we asked, well, what's the source of this problem? Come to find out, there's an outlet on the side of the building. The folks were charging their cell phone. There's a water spigot that people were using to bathe and other things like that. So the effective solution that reduced our calls for service were capping that, the water source, the electric source, trimming some of the shade trees, and increasing the lighting out there. Probably all of that costs less than $20 when you think about it. And the police don't go there nearly as often now.
One of the things that stood out in my mind is you said the transient, and if you're homeless with a cell phone, okay, I'll save that for the comedy show. But that is one of the factors that people don't take into consideration, is that if there's an outlet, they are using that electricity.
Correct.
And that's whether it's a heater, a cell phone, or whatever the case may be, and especially with access to water, whether the business is open or not.
Sure.
You get trouble lurking around, and that's why. So you guys go in to solve those type of problems.
Absolutely. Any type of problem, we look at the root of that problem, whether it's perhaps a tenant in a rental property that's dealing drugs or having consistent loud parties every weekend or every night where the police are having to come out. We have to look at the root of that problem. What is the problem? What are the neighbors complaining about here? And how can we reduce not only the problem for the residents there, but the tying up our police resources and going to that location over and over and over again.
Sounds effective. Now, give us a little background on yourself. How long have you been with the Fresno Police Department as well as POP?
I've been with the Fresno Police Department for 19 years and worked with the city of Lemoore for 3 years prior to that. In terms of problem-oriented policing, I've been with the Northeast Problem-Oriented Policing Unit for 2 years, but our entire agency's been involved in problem-oriented policing in one form or another since the early 90s. So it's a concept that's been around for a while. We try to employ it when possible. So.
Now, with some of the things that with people, like you say, for those type of situations where you have someone lurking, or there's people gathering around, or you see, is it best to just go ahead and call the cops first, versus because some people just go outside and try to do it themselves, but is that not, something that you guys that call you first?
Well, if you believe there could be a confrontation with somebody, we certainly don't encourage anybody to expose themselves to danger. absolutely call us if it's a problem with a person. If you're a business owner or a resident and you can use that philosophy to look at your own business and see what might be the cause of the problem, and if it's a simple fix, we encourage people to do that. We call that crime prevention through environmental design. So especially if you're a business owner, look at your environment. What can I do to switch things up a bit and maybe change this problem or solve it? So.
Awesome, awesome. Now, with the POP, is there POP? Is it a specific unit or just assigned officers to the program?
There's 5 policing districts in the city of Fresno. You have Northeast, Northwest, Central, Southeast, and Southwest. The map is on our website. We have one problem-oriented policing detective in each of those districts that is there to address a number of different issues out there.
Okay. Now, with how does the Fresno Police Department assign the officer for POP, or is it something that you sign up for?
Something the officers generally test for and work toward, and eventually they're selected to work in a position, much like any of our other detective-type assignments.
Awesome, awesome. And we're assuming that you passed that test with flying colors. Now, before we get out of here, it is New Year's Eve. You know, it's a lot of people that'll be out. Is there any advice to give the people who are watching before they get out and celebrate tonight?
Just be careful. We want everybody to have fun. Just be careful. Designated drivers and the celebratory gunfire. That is, I don't think people realize how dangerous that is. We absolutely, our officers are going to be out and be proactive. And we do have technology now. We have our shot spotter technology. So folks that are out shooting off guns, unlike years past, we have technology that will track that down within seconds. And it is a felony to recklessly discharge a firearm in the air. Even though one might think that they're celebrating the new year, they're putting the public in danger, and they can go to jail. So.
Well, I tell you what, you guys, instead of popping the guns, you pop some balloons now.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being a guest on our show. Let them know the information for the Fresno Police Department if they do decide to call if they see anything going on in the neighborhood.
You know, our non-emergency line for the Fresno Police Department is 621-7000. And then, of course, our website is under www.fresno.gov. There's the police department's website is within that.
I'll tell you what, thank you so much. Give another round of applause for Sergeant Michael Landon from the Fresno Police Department. Don't go anywhere, we got just a little bit more right after this.